Hi, everybody. This is Mitch Bailey. Thanks for joining me. Air Heroes, comfort to the rescue. Bailey's Heating and Air, and this is going to be an example of a home that we just did. I get asked all the time, what's the difference between us and other companies, and sometimes why we charge a little more than the other guys. Well, the other guys change out equipment. We don't just change out equipment. We go ahead and we prove what we put in is what it's supposed to be producing. So if we tell you it's supposed to be a 3-ton, it's a 3-ton. We also go in and we solve the problems that a lot of people have with the house. So as we continue on here, it's studying efficiency and comfort that we're going to do on this home. And it's performance tested and Air Heroes certified. So we're going to test this system in and out, and we're going to show you how it's all done. So let's get to it. All right, so this house, it's an older home, and you can see it's typical 1970s home. It's not overly big house, single story. It had a rooftop package unit, and the rooftop package unit was not original. This had been changed out once before, so this is the second system this house has had. And the current unit was right at 15 years old, and the customer had a company come out and do one of those 38 and 39.95 specials to clean it and check it all out. And the guy told him, yeah, you need to replace it, it's getting old. And so he said, okay, yeah, give me some pricing. And then they called us. So we came out to look at it, and so I found this packaging on the roof. It was in okay shape. It was a 3.5 ton. The house, it's a rental property for Gary, and Gary, he's the landlord, but he lives on one right next to the house. So it's a house. He's got a tenant in there, and so he sees the tenant every day. So he wants to kind of take care of the customer or the tenant. It's 1,638 square foot. It's not a huge house, but it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was built in 1978. It's got an existing 3.5-ton package unit, so that the roof's 3.5 tons, and a double pane aluminum windows. Now, we don't know if that unit's the right size for that. The rule of thumb a lot of people would use, and a lot of guys that size the unit say, well, 1,750 square foot house will do a 3.5 ton, 1 ton of cooling for every 500 square feet. So this would be a 3.5 ton or a 3 ton. So I'm going to do a load calculation. I always do load calculations, and this is to see that it's the right size equipment and that I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to. It's a slab floor. It has R13 wall insulation and stucco exterior. It's R19 insulation in the attic. That's what we had actually inside the attic. It wasn't a lot of insulation, so that could be upgraded too. Cathedral ceilings in half the home. And so we asked the tenant, he says, what's your problems with the system? And the tenant said, you know what, I can never get it below 76 in the house. It's always warm, and except for I have 2 bathrooms that are just freezing while the rest of the house is hot. He has high energy bills in excess of $250 in the summer when the thing's running. And he also seems like there's a lot of dust in the home, and the lights flicker when the unit comes on. So we're going to see if we can solve all these problems for the customer. For the tenant. And so we come in and we gave him a price, and then we looked at the ductwork and said, you should change that out too. So after looking at everything, we had contracted with Gary to measure the home, perform a load calculation, design the ductwork, test it, make sure leakage prior to it, what we were at, and also test out when we were done. We also was going to remove the existing elbow and the roof curb. The roof curb was actually a problem, so we're going to replace it with a 14-SEER standard unit. I'm not going to like a 16-SEER. And again, we're going to replace that roof curb because it might have been leaking. We're going to replace the ductwork with R8 flexible duct. So I'm replacing the R8, the R4.2 in the attic with all R8 flex. It's got a 2 inches insulation as opposed to 1 inch, so it's better insulated. And it's all brand new. And we're also going to insulate the attic to R44. We're going to install a new thermostat, replace the disconnecting breaker. And that might be part of the issue why it's actually giving them the lights are dimming when the unit comes on. So we're going to do all that stuff. And so the first thing we do is we do a measure in. So the measurement report, here's what we measured. We measured the airflow in the house, and we totaled it up, and it came out to 1,150 CFM. So if you look down here, you can see 1,150. 1150 CFM. I use Testo digital psychrometers to take my wet bulbs, and it does this calculation for me. They're the 605 Testos. I have one's number 972 is for the return, and number 172 is for the supplies. You put them in the supply and the return, you plug in the amount of airflow that it gives you, and it automatically does this calculation for me. So it tells me that there's 30,366 BTUs being produced. That's not a lot. 1150 CFM. This should be doing 1400 CFM because it's a 3.5 ton. So we're 250 CFM short, and we're 30,366 BTUs when it should be actually 42,000. So that's almost a whole ton smaller than it needs to be. The 3.5 ton, it produces 42,000 BTUs, and we're getting 36,000. So when I go out there, we'll do the test and we'll test the ductwork in the system itself. And this is what we came up with. So it was a 3.5 ton system, should be 1400. We measured 1150. So again, we're missing 250 CFM. And we're getting only 82% of capacity. In other words, the airflow is only giving you 82% of what it actually should be able to give you. So they're losing that in the system. Should be giving you 42,000 BTUs produced, but we're only getting 30,366 BTUs, so that's only 72% of capacity. So a quarter of their quarter of their cooling is just not getting into the house. So we measured the air leakage at 239 CFM, and so this is part of it. This part of the equation, and the reason why the house has so much problems is 239 CFM leakage equates to 17%, and so 17% of the air is leaking out either through the supply or the returns. If it's a return leaking, then it's going to be sucking in hot attic air in the summertime, and if it's the supplies that are leaking, it's going to not be getting into the house. It's going to be leaking into the attic as opposed to the house. So we use Wrightsoft to draw up the house. I went out there during the measurements, and we took actual physical dimensions of the rooms, the ceilings, and we plug those all in, and we draw it up in Wrightsoft. Wrightsoft is load calculation software. It also allows us to do the duct design at the same time, and so it really saves time because we do this manually. Typically it would take about a day to do a actual manual load calculation without the software. The nice part about Wrightsoft and WrightDraw is I can just go in there and drag and drop rooms and dimensions, and it just makes it so much easier. You just click on a icon over here on the side, and I can drop a window in, and I can size the window, and I can make rooms bigger. There's rooms here and all that stuff. So, and this room here, the family room and the living room and the dining room was all cathedral. The rest of the house was flat ceiling at 8 foot. And then the garage, of course, is not in the calculation. Okay, so we draw the house, and I do the load calculation. When I'm done, it automatically calculates. It tells me if the equipment was sized correctly, and in this case, yes, it was. We have a 3.5 ton. According to the load calculation, it shows it should be 3.6 tons of cooling. And let me explain this a little bit too, because we have the sensible heat ratio. If you look at this, this is what the actual cooling load is on an average 99-degree day. It's 30,000 BTUs. Well, if I put that exact size in there, then on the hotter days when it's 105, 110, we're going to have trouble keeping up with the cooling load that's being delivered to the house. So we need more cooling. So we have a fudge factor, and this is what the sensible heat ratio factor is. We divide 30,529 by 0.70, and you come up with 43,000, which is 3.6 tons, and that's our fudge factor. So we have a unit that's adequate to cool the house on the hotter days. Now, if this house is built in 78, so I would not mess with this number because the sensible heat ratio can be changed. We can modify it. If this house was built in, say, 2008, I would use like a 0.8 probably on this. So we'd only divide by 0.8, and we'd come up with a lower number, closer to 3 tons, and probably only put a 3 ton in this house. And if the house is brand new, with the way the windows are and everything today, we could probably get away with a 2.5 ton air conditioner on this house, and it would calc out and still be plenty big enough to handle the loads. So we've got the size correctly. So we then do the duct design. So the duct design is, if you can see this, the registers in each of the rooms, and we have a master bedroom, master bath, bedroom 2, bedroom 1, living room, dining room, kitchen, and family room. You can see all the registers. Each of the rooms have one register. We don't have any rooms with two. And if you look at the register, it gives you the size of like a 6x14, but it also says, here you see it was 239 CFM for this master bedroom. It tells me how much air I actually need in that room. So I want to make sure I'm getting 239 CFM. It got the return error, and it also gives, when I do the duct design, it tells me what size duct I need automatically. I just put the criteria of that, what I want to do, and it all figures out automatically, so it plugs it in. I don't have to do anything. It does that all for me. Even, it calculates the friction rates for the Ys, for the boxes, for the plenum. That's all done automatically for the system. You just kind of tell it what it needs, and it calculates it, and I just draw it real quick with just, draw a line for a supply duct, and then it makes the connections automatically, and it figures it out for me. Very good program. Wrightsoft, I couldn't recommend it more, but it helps me do my job and do it right. So I've got all these CFMs that I'm supposed to have. So when we went in and tested the house. I did the measurement, how I come up with that 1150 CFM, and that way we get that is we go around the house and we measure the airflow. So like this bathroom, it's getting 99 CFM, and the master bath, and it's supposed to be 64. Look at the master bedroom. 239 is what it's supposed to be getting, but we measured 135. And as you can look at all these different rooms, we have some huge. This room right here was 341, and we're only getting 196. That's a whole, 140 plus CFM that we're losing. And so a lot of these are off. And if you look at this one bathroom, how they complain about the bathroom being always cold. This hall bath only needs 4 CFM, but it's 129 CFM that's actually coming to the room with the old existing system. So yeah, they had a lot of issues with the ductwork. So we're going to change it all out and make it right. So after we change it all out, we put this brand new system in, this rooftop package unit. We've replaced the curb and the elbow, and you can see that we've re-roofed it in so that it won't leak. It's got new roofing, and down here it's got new roofing too, because the old unit extended down to here, down a couple of feet lower, and we get this all flashed in and good, so that this will last as long as the roof will last. So when they go to re-roof it, it's all ready to go for a re-roof. But yeah, it's up there, it looks a lot better than the old system did, and now they won't have any water leaks. Okay, so here's the test out. So we come in, and after we're done, the blue is what we did after we balance it. So our guys go through and balance the system after they get the ducts. Every one of these supply ducts has a volume damper on it that they can open or close to adjust the airflow to go to the parts it needs to. So when we first do it, those dampers are wide open, and some rooms are going to get way more air than they need, and some rooms are going to get way less. So what we do is we go in and we balance the system, and there's a procedure for that. The guys are trained in it. But as you can see now, we're a lot better. This one room needed 64 CFM in the master bath. Now it's at 61. Master bedroom needed 239. It's now 234. We needed 117 in bedroom 2. Now it's 116. We needed 147 in bedroom 1. We got 130. Now, yeah, that's a little low. You're like, well, hey, it's still 20 CFM more than it was, but we can't chase our tail either. We're going to try to get within 10%. If we get 10 to 12%, we're good with it. We don't really need to change much because it's not going to matter that much. So here's that bathroom again, the hall bath, 4 CFM. Now we're at 11. Before we were at 129. Way too much air. Family rooms 325, supposed to be 341. Living rooms 395. We're at 356. We're at 90 in the dining room, 96 here, and 198 and 196 in the kitchen. So all the airflow is balanced very evenly, and it's getting the air that it's supposed to. So here's the chart of actual how much the airflow changed. So the blue lines, the vertical blue lines, are all the design, what the design CFM should be. So the red lines were what our measure in was. So when we measured it before we didn't replace the ductwork. And then the green columns, the green lines, are all what we tested out when we were done and we're finished. So let's take a look at what the percentages, how bad or how far off they were. So in the living room, we were at 61% of what it really needed. So, and then in the bedroom 2, 61%, and we were at 50%, 57% in the family room. So, you know, we're only getting not even almost half the air that we really need. So then we got 56 in the master bedroom, 74 in the bedroom 2, 81%, and this is all prior to any ducts changed. 83 here, and then the bathrooms. Boy, we're 154% in the master bath. In the hall bath, we were at 3,220% over what it really needed. That's one reason why that room was freezing. Now, if you look at our green, you can see that we're very close to where we need to be with the blue, and so the design is about as good as it's going to get. You really couldn't tweak it any farther than this, and so we should be delivering air where it's needed, when it's needed, and so the house would stay nice and comfortable. Okay, so here's the measurement report afterwards. This is, again, this is a 3.5 ton. What did I say? 1,400 CFM for a 3.5 ton, and we're actually doing 1,421 and 42,000 BTUs. So 1,421 CFM, we're right at 3.5 tons. 42,000 BTUs, that's what a 3.5 ton is supposed to deliver. So we're hitting our numbers. We've put in a system that actually does this. If you have a contractor putting a system in for you and they're not doing these measurements, then they're just guessing at it. I teach for iHacky at PG&E and at Southern California Edison in Tulare, PG&E in Stockton. I do classes all the time. One of the questions I ask, and yes, there's contractors and there are service techs from other companies that attend these classes, and one of the first questions I ask these guys is, did you change out a system just recently? And the guys look at me and they say, yeah, I did a 3-ton or I did a 4-ton or whatever. And then I ask them, I says, okay, so how do you know it was a 3-ton? And they say so on the box, you know, the label says it is, but they don't measure it. And I try to teach these guys in those classes, hey, let's measure this so that when you go out in the field and you can tell the customer, yeah, this is delivering 1,421 CFM. It's a 3.5 ton. That's what it's supposed to do, and 42,000 BTUs, and that's what it's supposed to do. So we're right on our numbers on this. Okay, so let's go on. And look at the duct leakage. Remember what we had before? We had 239 CFM leakage at 25 pascals, and that's 17%. After replacing the ductwork, we got it down to 54 CFM. The code says I only have to hit 5% leakage when it's all new ductwork. Well, that's 3.9, so we actually did better than that. And a total improvement of 13% overall. Now, the new ducts are also insulated to R8, and they're buried under the new blown-in attic insulation. So that extra R value helps insulate the ducts from the heat in the summertime in the attic and from the cold in the wintertime. So it's a much more efficient system that way. Now then, what about energy? So the old system BTUs were 30,366, and we measured the wattage at the time, and we got 4,324 watts. 4,324 watts was actually the unit was consuming, or what it was using. So we can determine the EER. So there's two numbers there. SEER, you heard me talk about the SEER. We did a 14 SEER. SEER stands for energy efficiency ratio, and EER stands for energy efficiency ratio, and SEER stands for seasonal energy efficiency ratio. The SEER I can't measure. That's a computer calculation. It's done with software, modeling software, so we can't actually measure the SEER out in the field, but I can measure the EER. I have to take, and I already know what the BTUs the unit produced, and I divide the BTUs by the watts, and I come up with an EER, 7. So that's how much that unit EER is rated at, is 7. And if we look at the new system, we have 42,000 BTUs. The new system's total watts is 2624. Now, if you notice, at 2624, that's really almost half of what the old system was consuming. Now, I have to quantify this. This, the old system, when we measured it in, it was in the 90s, not quite 95 degrees. When we measured the the new system, it was cooler. It was closer to 80 degrees. So we're going to get a little better BTUs and a little less wattage draw when we do it. So we divide those two. We get to get the EER, we got 16. So the real EER that this unit produced, and all units, when they're measured, they measure them at 95 degrees for the EER. So when you hear somebody say it's a 3-ton air conditioner, it's a 2-ton air conditioner, that size air conditioner is at 95 degrees is how they arrived at the size of that unit. If the temperatures are cooler, if you do it at a cooler temperature and take the EER, you're going to get more BTUs out of the unit. It's actually more than it shows at the 95 degrees. If it's hotter, it's going to be less. So this is close to 95, so this is pretty true for the old system. The new system, it's a little high. This is actually a 12.0 EER unit, so we actually got four points just because it was cooler. But they're still not going to jump up to 4,000 watts. It's still going to stay around closer to 3,000 watts. So there's still going to be pretty good efficiency, and that's energy consumed, you know. So let's take a look at the system when we're all done. We do the measurements in and out. That's something that we do at our company. If your company's not doing that, you need to rethink what you're doing and maybe get a quote from somebody who does performance, because performance air conditioning, that's the way to do it. These customers are going to be much happier. The house is a lot more comfortable. They're going to save a lot on their energy, and you know, I can't emphasize how much more comfortable the people will be now, as opposed to just swapping out the equipment. So have a nice day, and I'm going to continue to post some of these, so hopefully down the road. And if you haven't subscribed to me, subscribe, because your subscriptions, I don't get any monetary gain from it. I'm just doing this for education. But subscribe to me, because it helps me boost up on my ratings with the YouTube, and more people will see this. All right, have a nice day. Thanks a lot.